Good evening, America. Hello, Chicago. And what's up, West Side? This is P. Ray of Black Excellence Hour, a show for people with high self-esteem. You could have been anywhere this Sunday, and you chose to be here with me at Black Excellence Hour. And as always, I appreciate the company. If you are watching live, and that could be live on the Black Excellence Hour's Facebook page, on the Intellectual Radio's Facebook page, or the Intellectual Radio a YouTube page, be sure to share the live, share the live. Today, I have a special guest who is coming to see us today, and that is Mr. Daniel Boland. Daniel Boland is the gentleman who is doing the Recall This Fall petitions. This gentleman is working very hard to get our pleasure of getting the mayor recalled put on the ballot. So we're going to bring him on today because this is not working. It's not working for you. It's not working for me. And we have the chance to say, oops, we want to do over. So we're going to have Mr. Boland on top of talking about all of this foolishness that they've been trying to do with my Donnie. It's absolutely ridiculous. 2 Fridays ago, I went on Fox News. And when I went on Fox News, I told Americans that Jim Crow Joe was Jim Crow Joe. And this is why we called him Jim Crow Joe in the city of Chicago, because he likes to say bad things about Black people. And we have like tons and 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 tons of evidence to prove it, because he's been in the government for over 50 years talking bad about us for over half a century. And so once I said that, Jim Crow Joe and his people popped out with this like Black voters for Biden stuff. And they then tried to say that my Donnie said the N-word on The Apprentice, but that had already been disproven in 2016. So now, friends, what they're going to try to do is paint my Donnie as a racist. That is now their goal. They want us to believe that he is a racist, he's going to hurt us, so on and so forth, because the message of Chicago Red is permeating throughout the country. Everybody is like, yes, we are so happy with what you guys are doing in Chicago. Right on. We want to do it in our town too. And they can't have that. So they want to make my Donnie, President Trump, a racist. But remember, he always said these words. Roll tape.
Americans built this nation. You built this nation. You know, you're just starting to get real credit for that. Okay, I don't know if you know that. You're just starting to you built the nation. We all built it, but you were such a massive part of it. Bigger than you were given credit for. Does that make sense? Right? But through generations of blood, sweat, and tears, and you deserve a government that defends your interests, protects your families, and cares for our own citizens first. My administration is fighting with everyone and all our heart to reverse the pain inflicted.
Uh-oh, what happened with Donnie? That was weird. It's okay. What he says is the pain inflicted by Democrats who have done nothing but try to wreck, ruin, and destroy our nation. And we know those words because we listen to them every single week here at Black Excellence Hour. Let's get to the meat of the show, my people. Lord have mercy. So, first things first, because they're going so hard to try to lie and convince the people that President Trump is this terribly racist person who just is going to hurt Black people and eat us, and send the KKK, which is the guerrilla warfare arm of the Ku Klux Klan, to eat us up. Actually, if the Klan was to ever come to Black Chicago, Joe would have sent them, because again, he's been working with Klan grand wizards like Robert Byrd. Like, these people were real live Klansmen, y'all. The Dixiecrats, they were so racist that they created their own racist party. And then they tried to run for the United States, I believe in 1960, the U.S. presidency. Once their candidate, Barry Goldwater, lost that election, then the Dixiecrats split. Some of them went back into the Democratic Party, some of them went to the Republican Party. But all of this is Dixiecrat trash. All of these people are like Confederates that we should have just got rid of at the end of the Civil War. But because we're such gracious people, we allowed them back into our society, and they've been nothing but a cancer ever since. I'm going to let you guys listen to what Jim Crow Joe said on June 28th, 1977. This is your president that they're trying to make you go vote for. Roll tape.
This thing is being North versus South. That's not the issue. It is rural versus urban. And most of the busing that's taken place to date has taken place in rural areas, whether it's be administratively ordered or court ordered. Now we're moving into applying the same standards to urban areas. And it is a standard that doesn't make sense. It doesn't apply. It doesn't hold. We're moving from trying to, in urban areas, we've had integrated facilities but segregated neighborhoods. And in rural areas, we've traditionally had integrated neighborhoods but segregated facilities. And they've applied the same standard and the same test. So this north-south thing is not really the issue. As Professor Nathan Glazer at Harvard has indicated, as Dr. Armour of the Rand Corporation, as James Coleman, as I just tell 3 days of hearing, two days of hearings in the Judiciary Committee on another bill I have beyond this that deals with busing. And there is uniform opinion of those who testified that it is not a north-south, it's an urban-rural question, distinction.
But no matter what your intent, there are going to be those who say it's a segregated thing, it's a question of race, and that you have set back the movement of desegregation of schools. How would you answer that?
The way I answer that is I predict that the young black leadership of America will overwhelmingly decide with me. I predict that in 1980 and 84, my position will be totally vindicated by the sociologist and by the civil rights advocates. I come from that side of the track. That's where I'm from. I was a defense lawyer. I handled civil rights cases. I sat in on Route 40. I mean, I'm not from the other side of this. And I happen to think that the one way to ensure that you set the civil rights movement in America further back is to continue to push busing, because it's a bankrupt policy. And that's why I think I'll be vindicated. I don't include myself with pro or anti-busing forces. I think the only group that can determine whether or not a constitutional violation exists is the federal courts of the United States of America. No one else has that right. Secondly, a federal court of the United States of America determining a violation of the Constitution with regard to school desegregation cases must find that there is a specific intent to segregate before they can order busing. That I abide by, that I legislate by, that I hold by. And they're the standards we should repair to. It's difficult to establish intent, but it's clearly possible. Factually, it can be established. The Supreme Court 8-0 ruled yesterday that they must find that. And you very well know, as covering this area as long as you have, that there are legal standards by which you bring in burdens of proof to establish whether or not there was a specific intent.
So Jim Crow Joe right there said that your kid's my child, that I don't get a bus for. See, remember, y'all, these are all the same people. This is literally why Brandon took the buses from the kids, because they said that they could see no intent to segregate. They saw, I can get into it, but we're not talking about Brandon right now. However, Jim Crow Joe said that he didn't want his kids to be in the racial jungle. He didn't want them to be around your kids or my kids. And yet we got black folks rushing your back down, telling you to come and vote for him. It's absolutely ridiculous. Moving on, let's talk about what they did to my Donnie. So they convicted him with 34 charges, 34 felonies, whatever. First things first. And it's still Black Chicago for Trump. It's still Chicago red. Do you think now we're supposed to say, I'm going to go vote for Jim Crow Joe because Trump got charged for paying a prostitute to keep his name out her mouth? I don't care. I don't care over here. I don't care over there. I don't care on a moat, afloat, or even on a boat. I do not care here, there, or anywhere. Who cares? So what? That has absolutely nothing to do with the open border. That has absolutely nothing to do with the invasion. That has absolutely nothing to do with our tax dollars being reallocated to illegals who are here. That has absolutely nothing to do with anything. Not our safety, not our security, not our health, not our economy. So what? And guess what? Now they're saying that they have to figure out how they're going to punish him. And so he said that today he spoke and he said that he would accept house arrest or jail time. If they put him on house arrest, then he's going to be in house arrest in the White House. And so what? This is also a case where you have to understand that prison time is very rare for people in the state of Illinois, in the state of New York, to go to jail for felony falsification of business records. So they never even put people in jail for this. This is all optics to keep people who want to be confused. Don't argue, don't fight, don't fuss, don't cuss. Let them have their little, you gonna vote for a felon? Show is. You gonna vote? Yes, I am. We don't care. However, because prison time is rare, that doesn't mean that prison time isn't a possibility. The maximum sentence for this crime is 4 years. President Trump went on Fox News and said, "I'm not sure the public would stand for it. It would be tough for the public to take. At a certain point, there is a breaking point." He is going to appeal, and upon appeal, he has to demonstrate that Judge Juan Merchan made significant errors overseeing the trial. Meaning President Trump, wants to take the case all the way to the Supreme Court. And they also tried to get Merchan disqualified from the case because they said that he had bias and because of the district attorney who prosecuted the case. So he said that meaning President Trump, said on Truth Social, the Supreme Court must decide. And I totally agree. I mean, why not? Why not? Send him to his Supreme Court where he has already talked to or nominated his people, and let's get this country back on the road. This is the first and last time I will be discussing Donald Trump's trial. P. Ray does not care. But let me tell y'all about a lot of ways that the Republicans are fighting back. This time, they are not going quietly into the darkness. The U.S. Senate on May 31st, 2024, wrote the following statement. The White House has made a mockery of the rule of law and fundamentally altered our politics in un-American ways. As the Senate Republican Conference, we are unwilling to aid and abet this White House in its project to tear this country apart. To that end, we will not, one, allow any increase in non-security related funding for this administration or any appropriations bill which funds partisan lawfare. Two, vote to confirm this administration's political and judiciary appointees. And three, allow expedited consideration and passage of Democratic legislation or authorities that are not directly relevant to the safety of the American people. Sincerely, Senator Michael S. Lee, Senator Tommy Tuberville, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Senator Roger Marshall, Senator J.D. Vance, Senator Eric Smith, Senator Rick Scott, and Senator Mark Rubio. It's going down. Now, the Senate Republicans said, y'all want to play with us like that? That's okay, because you won't pass another bill through. And it's a shame that this is how it has to go, but this is how it has to go, because Jim Crow Joe knew that he could not win, and rather just to take his whooping with pride, he tried to cheat, and the people caught him. Moving on. It's not only P. Ray and Chicago Red and the West Side and the South Side and the North Side and over East and in the suburbs that feel like this about Jim Crow Joe, but they are also talking about this in New York City. I'm going to play something from you that was posted by Lexit. They went out to interview people in New York City, and this is what they had to say. Roll tape.
How's Joe Biden doing?
He's too old. Sorry. But everybody elected him, so that's your fault.
And you ain't black.
He's sitting there lying to people.
And you ain't black.
He's the worst president that we ever had.
And you ain't black.
Joe Biden, please go back to Delaware because New York City, you have no idea what we need.
And you ain't black.
He's a slimy mother. You know? He take you out to lunch and stick the fork up your ass right after. Who do you want to win the 2024 election? Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
Donald Trump. I want Donald Trump.
And you ain't black.
Trump.
That happens to be me, in case you forget.
When he was in, it was no crime. Crime was down.
Uncle Donald. No cap. That's a nice guy.
And you ain't black.
Trump is straight up and down, like 6 o'clock. At least I know what I get when it comes to him.
And you ain't black.
I was more comfortable with Donald Trump in office.
And you ain't black.
I'm not voting for Joe Biden.
And you ain't black.
Trump, that's right, I said it. That's right, I said it. What do you like about Donald Trump? He don't bull. He don't care. Like, I like that.
And you ain't black.
How's Joe Biden doing?
Remember, Jim Crow Joe said, you ain't black if you do not vote for him. And I guess he doesn't understand what blackness is because we are free. And as he reminded us, Delaware was a slave state too. He has the culture of the Dixiecrats. Moving on, let's get to some local stuff. And I want to speed it up because I do have my guests waiting on the line. Like I told y'all, I wish I could come on here and say good stuff, but I cannot because the CTU and their progressive agenda is making our city less and less safe every single day. Did you know that there was a mass shooting at Benito Juarez Community Academy where 4 students were shot, 2 fatally, and the school principal and staffers threw up roadblocks to the police investigation and weeks later had to be threatened with grand jury subpoenas to spur their cooperation? What? So let me tell y'all what happened. Right before Christmas break in 2022, 4 students were standing outside of Juarez High School. They were about to go home. They saw that there was a student who used to go to the school who got kicked out for acting up. They saw him and they said, come on, we have to go. And so now when they tried to leave, that boy walked up to the group and asked them if they were a part of a gang. The children did not respond, and he shot 4 of them, 2 of them in the head point blank. Then the boy ran away. They got him on tape. A child at the school identified the boy by name, wrote his name down, gave it to the people to investigate. And the people at Juarez High School did not try to help the Chicago Police Department at all. At all. At all. At all. Lord have mercy. So the person who needs to be spoken to the most is a woman named Miss Jadine Cho. She is the chief of safety and security in the Chicago Public Schools. She said that there was a disagreement that the emergency of the shooting warranted their cooperation, and there was a disagreement on whether or not the high-ranking officials of both agencies would be in charge, and this went on again for months. The Chicago Police Department had to discuss having the principal of Juarez High School. His name is Mr. Juan Carlos Ocon. They had to discuss having Mr. Ocon charged with obstruction of justice. However, they decided not to, and CPS never punished him at all. Now, they're saying that the delays cost investigators invaluable time to interview witnesses and gather physical evidence. They also said that they arrested a 16-year-old about 8 weeks later in connection with the mass shooting after they saw him leaving with a stolen car and he had a rifle. They're saying between the slayings at Juarez and the time they arrested him, he took part in another shooting before they got to him. But they could have got him while he was standing right there. But because the Chicago Public Schools with the CTU have this no police in the Chicago public schools culture, they did not want to help the Chicago Police Department. The reason that they said that they cannot help the police department is because the only time you could call the police to the school is if there is an active shooter information in situation. However, CPS is saying that it wasn't an active shooter because the boy left, but then the Chicago Police Department said it's obviously an active shooter situation because we never caught him. So their socialist anti-police culture is now costing us justice when our children are attacked in the Chicago public schools. This is a real thing, y'all. This is why, again, we are talking about recall this fall, because we got to get these people out of here. They would rather try to virtue signal than helping our children and our families get the justice that they deserve. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely disrespectful. And the moms of the school had something to say about it, because this, again, friends, is not okay. Roll tape.
Have been announced in the deadly shooting outside of Benito Juarez Community Academy last year.
Police say a 16-year-old is behind bars tonight. Casey Cronus is live with more. Casey.
John and Corey, the alleged shooter's name has not been released because of his age, but he is facing 11 counts, including 2 counts of felony murder, and he will be tried for those as an adult. This comes as the mothers of the victims tonight decided to speak out. The shooting happened on December 17th outside of Benito Juarez High School in Pilsen. 4 teens were shot. 2 of them did not survive. 14-year-old Nathan Villegas, who attended Chicago Bulls College Prep, was killed, along with his friend 15-year-old Brandon Perez, who was a Juarez student. A 15-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl were also shot. They were injured. Soon after the shooting, which took place at dismissal time, police released surveillance images of the suspected shooter. Officials say that teen was arrested at his home yesterday after police say they set up surveillance there. But this evening, Alderman Sigcho Lopez and the parents of the victims say enough is not being done by CPD and CPS to keep their kids safe.
And now we have 2 kids that should be with us today. And the other kids are terrified because there's still no communications and a plan on how we're going to prevent these tragedies from happening again.
Not only that, but that, like, if they were involved in some kind of gang affiliation, that maybe they knew them and they had some kind of gang thing going on. They're not gangbangers. They were kids.
Meanwhile, CPD held a press conference earlier today where the CEO of Chicago Public Schools spoke and says they have increased patrols at schools.
Now, the guy that you heard talking, saying that we have to do more for the kids, was Byron Sicho Lopez. And he was the one who was pushing for the Palestinian referendum to go through while 2 Black boys were killed downtown at Innovation High School on Madison and Wabash. And then right before then, we had a little boy who was killed over there at Longwood Academy out south. So he mentioned none of those murders, not this little boy's murder, but instead they were pushing for the Palestinians. Again, this is why we have to recall all these people, because they are not being serious. Let's move on. Moving on. I also want to let you know that with that $53 million budget that was pushed, or $1 billion budget that was pushed last week, we also know that the work permits for all cleared committee. And so now the illegals will be getting work permits. They about to start working it cleared committee. I bet you they didn't tell you that on your other station. Speaking of, I want to give a shout out to Miss Carolyn, who I just met at my friend Tiffany's baby shower. She said that she's been listening to me. I was just sitting there. She's like, where do I know you from? What's your name? And I told her my name, and she's like, oh my God, it's you. I love you, girl. I love your show. I love you too, Miss Carolyn. And I know her daughter and her goddaughter. She's like, I did not know they knew you. I'm like, I've been in your life for years. You just never knew me. So shout out to Miss Carolyn. Moving on, speaking of propaganda, the Chicago Sun-Times has published Russian propaganda push expected for the Chicago Democratic National Convention, experts say. These things are target-rich slews for the Russians to try to use lots of things and see what really works. They're about to call the work of Chicago Red Russian disinformation. Just like last time Mark Zuckerberg called me a Ukrainian troll. Remember when I had my Blacks for Chicago page? He's like, any Blacks for Trump pages you see, those are Romanian trolls, where they're about to start rolling that out again, y'all. They are about to start calling us Russian disinformation. And before you start, yo mama wench. Moving on. Lastly, we went to Brandon's house. I told you guys that we were going to pull up on him last week to talk about what happened with Emma Mitz. We did go over there. Shout out to everyone in Chicago Red who went. Miss Kyla Truss, Miss Beverly Miles, Miss Kimberly Saunders, Osiris. We had Michael Youngbay out there. We had his baby girl who spoke. It was a wonderful time. This was me at the press conference. Roll tape.
Because Brandon Johnson is committed to making sure that Black people in this city knows that he does not respect us. We have a man over here from Elgin, Illinois. Elgin. He is not from the 29th Ward. He is not from the 27th, 29th Ward. He did not grow up in my neighborhood. In our neighborhood. We have people out here that have been standing 50 years who have flipped. And now we're holding Trump signs because of Brandon Johnson. So, Mr. Johnson, we want to let you know very loud and clear that we will not stand for you disrespecting Black women, because Emma Mitz said that she believes that this happened to her because she's a Black woman, and I believe it's true too. We all believe that that is true too. We're not going to take the disrespect toward Black Chicago because you like to tell people that you're one of us, but you're not acting like you can to us. You're not acting like we're in the same culture. We have the same goals, because everything you do is to appease people outside of us.
Shout out to Chicago Red. So with all of that being said, I'm going to bring on my two guests. I have first my lovely City Hall correspondent, Mr. Mark Armstrong. Mark, welcome to Black Excellence Hour.
Welcome. Oh, thank you. Rather, you know I'm riding shotgun with you, right?
Oh yeah, I should have been brought you. Sorry, but welcome. So y'all, we are riding shotgun on the show because this is my City Hall correspondent. He has been in local news for over 30 years, correct?
Yep, actually 40-something years.
Yes,
I've been covering public affairs in Cook County for 40-something years.
Well, welcome.
Including out there in Dalton and Thornton Township.
Yeah, well,
so I know where all the bones are buried.
Well, welcome to the show. Welcome. So tell us, what's been going on?
Well, it's ironic that you mentioned Cicho Lopez, because he's one of the aldermen that were alderpersons that were for pulling ShotSpotter out of the neighborhood. In fact, when our Black police superintendent Snelling was discussing the public safety plan for the convention, he had a meltdown and kind of called himself clowning Snelling, but ended up clowning himself, and then sort of ran outside the council chamber and just disappeared, because he promised me an interview to discuss what was going on there, and then he just disappeared. Also, he's one of the people that was in support of pulling the SROs, or the security resource officers, out of the schools.
Mm-hmm. And
lately, he's one of 17 alderpersons who are signatories to a letter asking the University of Chicago to restore the degrees of the students who pose a public safety hazard and a health hazard by setting up that encampment at the on the university's campus around the time of graduation. So these people, these aldermen and the mayor, constitute what I'm calling Animal Farm champagne socialists. If anybody's read Animal Farm, you remember that the pigs that were running everything from a totalitarian standpoint, were living it up off of the sacrifices of the other animals until they got literally drunk with power, that they fell in a stupor, and that gave the other animals finally a chance to lead a successful revolution, an uprising against the pigs' power, totalitarian power, which was reinforced by the dogs. Champagne socialists in the UK census it's used are people who come from a very elitist standpoint and expect the same thing, to live it up off of their prominence and power, while the rest of us have to suffer from sacrifices.
Yep, we gotta eat the slop.
Right. Hence, the rest of us are suffering at the expense, or the migrants are being uplifted at the expense of those of us who have been denied certain services and things to help us pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness at our expense.
So this is why we're moving forward with this Recall This Fall effort.
Recall This Fall, absolutely. And I want to clarify something before Dan weighs in on this. A lot of people have had so much to say about, number one, that Dan isn't the father of this wave of the movement, and that why do it to a black guy? And we aren't saying that he's the father of the movement overall. If you want to get down to brass tacks, the father of the movement overall would be LaShawn Ford, because he's the one that introduced or sponsored the Laquan McDonald Act, dating back to 2015 rather, when Rahm Emanuel was the mayor, to allow all municipalities across Illinois to recall their officers, whether they be mayors or village trustees or town trustees, or for incorporated towns, and older persons. So now there was another wave where it wasn't organized like Dan's wave is now, that sought to circulate petitions, but they did not follow the law that said that the petitions have to be uniformed, no matter where you circulate. People have different versions of the thing and of the petition, and that would have easily got them knocked off the ballot.
So then, why?
So Dan would tell you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to tell you. Go ahead. Maybe you're going to answer my question.
So as Dan will tell you, he's gotten sound legal advice, and he's following the law. And we've been helping him research the election code, which is Chapter 10 of the Illinois compiled statutes, to make sure that he's on point, and to cut any opportunity for any forces, whether it be from the Cook County Democratic Party or the state Democratic Party, or the mayor, to knock this thing off the ballot. So go ahead. I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
let's bring in Dan. Dan, welcome to Black Excellence Hour. Hi. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for being so bold as to take this effort on.
Well, it's something that needs to be done for democracy more than anything else, because we've allowed people to walk all over us, whether we're Black Chicagoans, white Chicagoans, Latino Chicagoans, for far too long. And when we elect someone who doesn't do their job and doesn't do what they say they're going to do, then we should have the right to recall. And, this whole movement started for me when I was reading comments on Twitter that said, why can't we recall the mayor? And so I went out and found out why we could or couldn't. And, so I'm not the father of the movement. I'm more like the uncle of the movement who wants to know why we couldn't do something, and if we could do something about it. And so to that end, I reached out to former Governor Pat Quinn, who, when he was governor, actually got a state referendum passed to recall any future Chicago governors. Now, that's a pretty bold step for him. And he actually, wrote it in the wake of what happened with Rod Blagojevich. And so that is now the law of the state. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make this the law of the city. And a lot of people have asked me why we're going after the mayor, and they want to make it a racial thing and this and that. You know what? When you get wronged by a company, you don't go after the line worker, you go after the CEO, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a recall on a product and now you're going to have a class action lawsuit, you don't sue the head of engineering, you sue the CEO of the company, right? So that's what we're trying to do here too. And so the mayor's the one who made this a racial thing from the very beginning. He said I was just some dude from the suburbs. Not true.
Oh, wait,
Yesterday,
you're not just some random white guy from the suburbs?
No, in fact, yesterday I celebrated my 33rd anniversary living in Chicago. And, that's the longest relationship I've ever had. And so I've never moved from the city.
Yeah, in the Lakeview area.
Wow.
Yeah, I live in the Lakeview area now, but I've lived in other areas.
Where are you from?
Side, and I'm from Detroit originally. And unlike Eminem, who's at 8 Mile, I was at 6 Mile. So I'm too deeper than Eminem. He's just got more money.
I was just reading an article about Uptown and how in the 70s it was a space for blacks from the South and white hillbillies. And so they would call it and I was like, wow, who would have known that, that type of dynamic was there in Uptown? So that's why I asked.
The indigenous people tend to leave that out. They had a large indigenous. And
in fact, in Uptown, there was a community center for indigenous people up until very recently. I think they've moved it in the last few years, and it's now apartment buildings. But it was an old school that they had repurposed into a community center for the indigenous.
And wasn't the late Flint Coleman involved with that community center? Or
I don't know. I'm not really familiar with Reverend Coleman's work. I kind of came here a little late, and he was kind of moved on from there over to the West Side and the Latino community at that point. So I remember him giving sanctuary to a mother. Yeah.
He was a long-time activist. I think he went to one of the Ivy League schools. I want to say Princeton.
Mm-hmm.
And he arrived here in Chicago helping these very groups that you're talking about, starting with the Black Panthers. And he was one of the people responsible or credited with Harold Washington getting elected. Mm-hmm. He has very liberal thinking.
Yeah, and in fact, what people aren't necessarily aware of is that we've had the ability since 1970 in the Illinois Constitution to have these type of home rule referendums and to pursue recall that way. And it's in Section 6F, Article 7 of the Illinois Constitution that says that we can do this. And so that's what Governor Quinn advised me to do and to pursue it this way because, the Laquan McDonald Act has sat in committee, hasn't seen the light of day since 2015. I talked to Representative Ford about it. We tried to get it called up again this year. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen. And so we have to take our city back.
Yeah, he says that every time he reintroduces it gets caught between being voted out of committee and not reaching a floor vote. And that section that Dan just quoted from the Illinois Constitution.
Yeah.
Right. Under home rule power said that you have the home rule power to change the terms of your elected officials, meaning that you can impose everything from term limits to recall power.
Dan, I have a question for you. How is the petition process going? Because I have petitions for you, by the way. My organization has been collecting petitions. Yeah. So tell us how it's going and how we can get them to you.
Well, we're getting tremendous response across the city, not just from the South Side or the West Side. Although that has been, for me, surprisingly, when I started this, I didn't think that would happen, but we've been getting tremendous response from there. We're getting tremendous response from the Northwest side, in the 39th Ward. One of my petitioners there, one of the people who circulated the petitions, tells me he's got over 400 just from that ward alone by going to the Jewel and the Mariano's and the Whole Foods and standing outside and talking to people. And so if, we continue to go on with this, we're still early in the stages, but with 1 month in, roughly a month and a week, I would say we're in pretty good shape. We've got a lot that are still circulating out there, and I think we'll know more solid numbers probably towards the end of June. But, if this is what we've gotten just from retired people going out and getting signatures, retired city workers, and from other wards of the city, I've been getting calls and, questions on the website, recallthisfall.com, from all 50 wards. I can't think of a ward that I didn't get something from. And every day the mayor makes a big mistake, more traffic hits the site, right?
Right.
And so he's doing the work for us in a way, this current mayor. But, it was never my intention to go after Mayor Johnson directly. It was my intention to have that mechanism in place as a form of good government and as a form of direct democracy. But he makes the case every day. And so when we see these cover-ups at Juarez High School, when we see, there was a fight that broke out at the graduation at Simeon.
Oh, yeah, that was horrible.
On the 28th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when we see a member of the city council assault another city council person who is not only a senior citizen, but is also an African-American and is also a woman, then, I understand she's afraid to stand up to the other people in the caucus, and she may feel harassed or intimidated, but we need to keep asking for Carlos Ramirez Rosa's resignation from the city council, because it sets a bad precedent when we don't call it out, because the mayor is the CEO. He should have fired that person and accepted the resignation. In terms of, he can't fire a city council person or an alderman.
Mm-hmm.
Only the people in their ward can really do that. But he should have suggested that you're now on the back bench. You don't.
He should have also suggested or insisted that aide to Carlos Romero Rosas, who put his hand on Ray Lopez, but on Ray Lopez on another occasion at City Hall, should have been fired as well. He's already been arrested and going to court on it.
Then we had Greg Mitchell, who jumped on Desmond Yancey and choked him out at City Council. And then Desmond Yancey,
and they never did anything about
it. And the man stood in the city hall and said, "I was beat up. This man choked me out. Do something." And nothing was done.
Yeah.
So now they're cultivating a culture of violence down there. I got jumped on down there by a city aide. This is
and intimidation as well, because you had what's her name, Rosanna Sanchez, whatever it is. Who on that night of that tumultuous special meeting to get sanctuary city choice on the ballot as an advisory referendum, she allegedly threatened several aldermen, I think some of them were black, with a false harassment.
I remember that. She said she was going to say that Walter Burnett sexually harassed her. I remember.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'd like to think Walter Burnett had better taste than that, but that's just me,
Well, she's a cute lady.
But the other thing is, no, she's not. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not even talking about looks. I'm talking about personality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here's the thing. She is not an American. She may have American citizenship, but she doesn't support our troops. She doesn't support our efforts overseas. She is pro-Palestinian. She has tweeted out on Twitter that she was looking for a pediatrician for her child who was not a Zionist.
That's Jewish.
Discrimination. Yeah, meaning Jewish, right? And look, all of that is wrong. All of it's wrong, right? But the fact of the matter is that this mayor is allowing this stuff to happen, and he's not doing anything to prevent it. He didn't do anything to prevent the encampments at DePaul or at the University of Chicago. You know, the one at Northwestern was up in Evanston, but, you know, any other school that is doing this, he didn't do anything.
But they do have campuses in Chicago.
But they do have campuses here, yeah. And so, you know, but the fact of the matter is, we're not addressing city problems.
Right.
We're not addressing that people can't get SNAP, right? If they lose their job and don't have enough money for food. Why? Because the migrants are using up all the resources, and they're the ones that are getting approved. These people don't pay taxes. These people don't, pay sales tax. They're, you know, getting all kinds of funds, and then they're still out begging on the streets anyway.
That's true.
And so,
and they're not calling for a ceasefire here in these streets of Chicago, like they are in a part of the Middle East that's thousands of miles across the water.
Well, that's right. Why isn't Cincho Lopez worried about ceasefires in his ward when that's the ward that Adam Toledo got killed in? Why?
Well, probably because he's busy using city workers to pave his driveway.
Well, look.
Well,
wait, hold on. Let's take a caller because we got people waiting. They've been waiting for a while. We're gonna add them to our conversation. Let's go to. Let's see. Hello. Welcome to Black Excellence Hour.
Welcome to Black Excellence Hour. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, you gotta turn down your computer or your phone.
Hey, P. Ray, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm fine. I'm sitting here with the bad Dems, and we're on Twitter Spaces, and we're listening to your show. You know, and I know there's a lot going on with Miss Sandy and all that, but all the bad Dems
we're not bringing that. We're not bringing that to my show. I don't want to hear that here. I don't. Twitter is not real life. You guys are just my entertainment, okay? Don't bring that here, especially about some lady named Sandy that none of us know in Chicago. None of that stuff matters. See you, love.
Yeah, but they're saying that they're here. So
moving on. Y'all, I'm a whole other person on Twitter. Twitter is a wild place, and I'm taming it every week. Let's get back to the callers. Welcome to Black Excellence Hour.
Recall Brandon.
Recall Brandon.
You got it. Good show. Good topic, everybody.
Yeah, well, first we got to get the process in place. Then we can have another referendum to recall Brandon.
That's right. Well, so we need you to get petitions out there and sign them and get other people to sign. We need 56,464 registered Chicago voter signatures, but we're going to need 2 to 3 times that much in order to get it on the ballot. And we have until August the 5th to do that. And then if it's on the ballot in the fall, or when it's on the ballot in the fall, then it has to win by 50% plus 1 vote. So, sir, your 1 vote could make the difference.
Wait, hold on. Let our guest talk. I'm sorry. Go ahead, guest.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Let our caller talk. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying I don't actually live in Chicago, but I support the cause 100%. This whole thing with Trump, as you're correctly pointing out, is so bad. So today I was on our favorite Urban Talk radio station, and I brought up the fact, for example, brag can only brag about more crime that's going on in New York City. I mean, he went after that Marine, remember that tried to save that lady on the subway or something, and they're prosecuting him. And Trump, kind of put Bragg's nose in the garbage when he went by the store where Bragg put this guy in jail for defending himself in the store, only to have so much public outrage that, of course, he'd let him go. But that's who these people are. These Democrats promote this stuff, and this is why we got to change things. And this is good to hear what you're doing there. Absolutely. It's just, it's so dumb,
Well, sir, if you're in the city, bring a petition with you. You can download it at recallthisfall.com. As long as you're a U.S. citizen over 18, you can pass the petition. We need people to do that. We also need people to donate to the cause too, because if this does get on the ballot this fall, we're going to need to run commercials, and we're going to need to make sure that this gets passed. So, let all of your friends know who do live in the city that this is going on, and that we would appreciate their help.
Well, we'll try to do the best we can.
Dan, can you give that website one more time?
Process. First, we set up the process. Then we can go after Brandon Johnson if we so see fit.
That's right. But we have to get the mechanism in place. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get the process in place first.
Well, Dan,
Well,
can
good
you
luck,
please?
guys, and we'll do what we can.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan, people are asking for you to give that website again. Can you give it to us again?
Yeah, it's www.recallthisfall, on all one word, so RECALLTHISFALL.com. And it explains our position, our platform. It gives you an opportunity to download the petition to circulate it. A couple of things on that. You have to be a registered Chicago voter to sign the petition. If you're going to circulate the petition, you cannot sign it and be the circulator on the same petition. Okay. And then it has to be notarized. Once it's notarized, you're going to send it in to our mailing address, which is 3712 North Broadway, Broadway, number 456, Chicago, Illinois, 60613.
Wow.
The address is on the petition at the bottom, but it's very small. But it's also on the website as well. And we are accepting donations now. So if you want to donate to the cause, we would really appreciate it, because we are going to need some kind of funding in order to this fall, run commercials. I was telling Mark the other day, our first commercial is going to be Brandon running from the press and barely outrunning a senior with a bad hip, with a hip replacement. And she was running in heels and she almost caught him.
Oh, so, you talking about Diane Ahern?
Yeah, I was hoping she would jump in front of the limousine and point her microphone and go, "Freeze, sugar, you on the news bloodhound arrest."
Right, yeah, something like that. But, here's the thing. Good leaders don't run from problems. They don't run from the press. They solve problems. They come to problems with solutions. Franklin Roosevelt was in a wheelchair when he got elected president. He didn't run from the Depression. And when they attacked Pearl Harbor, he didn't run from the Japanese. When he died, and Harry Truman came in and had to, he didn't run from dropping the bomb, right? Yeah. And so those are two examples. Abraham Lincoln, same thing. When he took office as president the first time, South Carolina was starting to secede, and other states were planning to do so, and he had to take on a civil war. You didn't see him running from Washington.
And Eisenhower didn't run
from here.
And Eisenhower didn't run from enforcing Brown versus Board of Ed. He sent in the 101st Airborne to enforce that in the Deep South.
Right. And that's something that we should be asking for this summer. The CPD is short 2,000 people. We have a convention coming here. We have city council members that are already threatening to cause trouble at that convention. I'm calling on Governor Pritzker and the United States to send in troops for at least the month of August to fill in the gap to bring some safety to our city, right? Because the killings that happen every week. Last weekend we had 50 people that were shot here. Now I think it was 10 or 11 were killed. Right. The mayor didn't say anything about that. Didn't say anything about it. But what did he talk about this week?
He talked. Right? What did he talk about?
Well, he opened up the mental health center. We'll see how that goes. Over a road.
What else did he talk about this week? So that and mental health is an important thing. So I'm not going to hate on.
Well, he did say that Chicago is a sanctified city, and again said that he was.
Yeah, but he didn't mention anything once about the people that are shot. He has no public safety plan. right?
And he didn't say anything about ShotSpotter extending or offering to extend more technology for the convention as opposed to for the neighborhoods.
Well, let's
now,
do
one
this.
of the things that we've seen, well, if I can just finish, one of the things that we've seen since we started our movement, the Recall This Fall movement, is that his socialist pals are starting to fight back. They're fighting back on the CTA, right? They're fighting back on the RTA appointment. So they actually passed a bill.
They're also fighting back on school funding because they're talking about taking away funding from the top performing schools.
Right,
and
right. And let me say just one thing on busing, because I was one of those students who was bused in Detroit
I'm sorry, Dan.
in 1976.
Hold that thought one moment, because
okay, sure. I'm sorry.
No. You didn't do anything wrong. We have lost audio on the Facebook stream, and I'm assuming it's those weird Twitter people who just tried to call me and start a big to-do. So I'm gonna end this on Facebook, and we're gonna try it all again. People are so strange, y'all. Like, it is crazy. So just hold that thought. But in the meantime, in between time, I got a question on the YouTube page that asked if inmates in the Cook County Jail could participate with this effort.
Yeah, if they are under sentence, I think they can vote on it. I'm not sure about Dan would have to tell you about whether about circulating petition signatures, but as long as they aren't under sentence, they could vote on it. They could conceivably vote on it.
Yeah, I would think anyone who hasn't been convicted is okay. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and there are people that have to spend time in Cook County Jail because they can't make the bail. And for whatever reason, but we will, that will be for the city to decide if they are registered voters and if they are able to circulate the petitions. But we encourage anybody who wants to do it.
Also, I think it's important to note that we kind of touched around it, but this is a multi-partisan effort. This is not a Chicago Red effort. This is not a conservative Democrat effort or just an independent effort. Everybody has been weighing in on it. In fact, our first unofficial commercial was done, and we got to give her a shout out, even though she wants to be more behind the scenes, is one of the members of the Deep South Press Corps, which P. Ray is a new member of. Ron of Prosper News Organization did our first unofficial commercial, which is trending heavily. I think now, when I last looked, it was under. She showed up. It was under 2,000 views, and I could conceivably see it being under 3,000 or 4,000 views right now.
Wow! So this is like really happening.
Republican.
So let's take another caller.
And that's what I said from the very beginning. We're not a red Chicago this summer. We're not a blue Chicago this summer. We're a purple Chicago. We have to come together, right? Because red and blue make purple, right?
That's right.
We have to come together. We have to unite to get this on the fall ballot. So that's why every signature is important from all 50 wards. And frankly, I'm calling on all aldermen and city officials to get behind this as well. They want to make it a racial issue. That's on the mayor. That's not on me. I have nothing against diversity and inclusion. I'm a white person, but I have 7 nieces and nephews that are biracial. Our family looks like the United Nations at Christmas time.
Well, I think it's very interesting that Pat Quinn is in on the effort, and he's a Democrat as well. So that speaks to the bipartisan effort of all of this, because you have literally a former governor trying to assist as well. Let's take our last caller before we wrap up. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And you have two, and T-Ray, you also have 2 elected officials who happen to be Democrat who say that while they don't see that the mayor has done anything egregious to be recalled himself, that they do support the effort to have recall home rule powers on the ballot. And that is Alderman David Moore of the 17th Ward, and the father of the recall movement altogether, State Senator LaShawn Ford.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's the
So
thing.
you have two black Democrats supporting this.
Right. And we never wanted to make this a racial thing at all.
Mhm.
It's the mayor that drew first blood on this because he didn't do his homework. He relied on people who don't have the facts, including his chief strategist, who moved here the month before our movement started. I did my homework, right? I found out about who to contact on this. Governor Quinn wrote up the petition for me because he's a good person and he believes in direct democracy, as do I. And then I created the website. Those are my photos, except for one up there on the website. Okay. That's my putting the money together to do this and having to do these things. So this was never about a specific mayor. And you'll notice on the site, we never mention a specific mayor. In our editorial or in the video and stuff, the media tries to pit me against the mayor, but it's not about him at all. But he tried to make it about him. Why? Because he's thin-skinned, number one. Number two, he's what we would call back in the 80s a poser, right? He's trying to pose as a mayor, a black mayor from the streets. He grew up on the streets of Elgin, and the last time I checked Elgin, their crime rate isn't that high. They're losing people. We could be sending some of the migrants to Elgin to take care of some of the load off of us, but we're not doing that, right? And so, I've spent more time in the city than he has, and I grew up in Detroit too. So, I've got more street cred than he does, I'm going to say, when it comes to stuff like this.
Let's take our last caller.
I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to put up with his stuff anymore. I'm just not. So,
welcome to Black Excellence Hour.
Hi, P. Ray and the guests. This is Dennis.
Hey, Dennis. Let's go, Brandon. Recall,
No,
Brandon.
Black Lives MAGA. No, Black Lives MAGA.
I like that better. Black Lives MAGA.
Let go of Brandon.
Yes.
He's saying let go of Brandon.
Yes. Black Lives MAGA. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you. You know what? I think we need to do, what we need to do right now is to form a MAGA march on Michigan Avenue, because if they let the Palestinian protesters march, why can't us American citizens go ahead and do a MAGA march just to let them know we're serious this time and stuff? Because not only the presidential election is important, but the Supreme Court nominee is important too, because Clarence Thomas, I think he's going to retire real soon. And if Trump will be elected in office, then he could appoint more conservative judges into the Supreme Court while him, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So why can't? Yeah. So I think we should do a MAGA march.
I'm down. Sounds good to me. Like I said, Black Lives MAGA. I love that. We might put those shirts on the Chicago Red website. I'd like that a lot. Thank you, Dennis, for that.
Yeah, no problem. Another thing is that during I will say, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna say the Democratic National Convention, as much as hurt me to say it. And if we have to protest, P-Way, we're gonna have to arm ourselves on this one right here, because something's gonna go down real soon. And the police
Well, the mayor is not, the host committee, that is, in the city is not issuing permits for anybody. So they don't want any kind of protest to mar the convention. And they are thinking about using the 1996 plan, which was, remember, they had the protest cage at the United Center. I had to walk by that every day. I covered the convention then. As pool coverage. And it doesn't seem like they're for that.
So we don't protest. We just assemble. It's not a protest. We just assemble, standing and stuff. We're not marching on that day. We just assemble. So they can't say it's a protest.
So you just want to demonstrate, or you just want everybody to demonstrate, as opposed to protest or sit in or what have you.
Correct.
Okay.
One of the interesting things that, and I don't support this, but one of the things that the Palestinian protesters are doing this month, they did it in Philadelphia today. They are disrupting gay pride parades. I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to happen here in Chicago with the Palestinian protesters as well. So if they can do that, why can't we interrupt their marches?
That's a
I
good
wonder
point.
if they're going to do that at the Puerto Rican Day Parade, which I understand is not going to be downtown, but is going to be in Humboldt Park.
I don't think
They're
those
not gonna come to
Palestinian
Humboldt Park.
protesters are
They
coming
will
to the
not
west
come to
side
Humboldt
with those
Park.
shenanigans.
I'm going to tell you that they're not going to come to Humboldt Park. That's the last part they want to do is disrupt something in Humboldt Park.
Okay.
Well,
They
it's not
won't come
smart of
home.
them to do that, but you know
Oh,
what?
I
A
suggest
lot of the
that,
aldermen who would be at that parade who are Puerto Rican, like Sanchez, Jesse Fuentes, things like that. They all support the Palestinians. I wouldn't be surprised if they did show up, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
No, I don't think y'all ever been to the Puerto Rican
Well, I
parade.
think Dennis is suggesting that they might get fire across the lips, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the Puerto Ricans don't have time for any of that at their parade.
That way.
Yeah, with a diamond ring with one of them fingers. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. However, we could do that MAGA march before the convention or after the convention. We need to do that march right there at the same time that the men, the Palestinians do their protest march. Maybe we need to do a protest march and disrupt them.
You probably could do that because I can't imagine that there aren't going to be pro-Palestinian protests at the Republican convention in Milwaukee.
True.
But then I don't know what their public safety plan is over there in Milwaukee. But they seem to be running a tighter ship over there for the host committee, for the Republican convention host committee than the Chicago host committee is running.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mr. Producer, how much time do I have left? Okay, go ahead, gentlemen. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, but then in '96, under Daley, the host committee ran a tighter ship, but you didn't have the same issues you got now in the post 9/11 era.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know one thing for certain and two things for sure. Jim Crow Joe is not coming to the blue party that he believes that he's coming to. I think that the entire country is going to be very surprised to see the response that Chicago is about to give the DNC. Everybody that I talked to said that they can see that Chicago is leading the way. And as we lead the way, they're seeing that people in Chicago are saying, we're sick of this. We're done with this. Kiss our butt, Democrat Party. We don't want to hear what you have to say. We're done negotiating. And I think that it's catching on, but people are not going to see how serious we are until they get here and see the whole city has on red shirts to greet him.
And not only that, P-Ray.
Oh, go ahead.
Not only that, P-Ray, I think they're not going to see how serious it is. Well, it will be until November 5th.
Mm-hmm.
We the one who's going to have to find a say so of who should be in the Oval Office or not. And now this is a very important matter right here for everybody, not only here in the United States, but all over the world. Because you got Hamas against Israel, the Ukraine, we send them $160 billion to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like every time we do something, Joe Biden and within the help of the other side of the African community who's still helping Joe Biden. And the one more thing is we need to call out not only Joe Biden, not only Brandon Johnson, but we need to call out the black media. We need to call out the black politicians. We need to call them out on social media and through the news because the reason why I said that because they are doing tooth and nail to protect Joe Biden's agenda, even though Joe Biden is not running this country. They are the ones who's over here who's being more of the sellout and the Uncle Tom because they don't care about
Johnson's agenda, although he's running black communities into the ground. I'm glad you brought that up because the Deep South Press Corps, which has a combination of what would be considered black press and press that happens to be headed by black journalists, we decided that since Biden has already been nominated virtually to get him on the ballot in certain states, our concentration is going to be out here on the streets. what's happening on the streets and these auxiliary events that are going on, that will be going on in connection with the convention. Also, we're going to be very concerned about seeing the platform. Now, right now, the Republican Party doesn't have a formal platform. The Democratic Party platform has been very dismal. I can remember back in '96 when Bobby Rush, as one of the co-chairs of the platform committee, one of their main planks was expanding or extending the 1994 crime bill that he's now apologizing for in hindsight.
But
we don't need to accept no apology.
Because when he saw it wasn't working, he didn't try to stop it. It's not that he just found out. They've been telling him for decades that this was a bad policy, and he didn't care until he literally needed Black votes.
And I warned people on the streets, especially at the hip hop events that were going on around the same time, about it, and no one did anything about it.
Yeah.
No one contacted him. They were just like, well, you know, he's a former Black Panther and he'll work it out. And I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah,
especially from what we know about what happened the night of the raid of the commune on Madison Street.
Well,
and then some.
Well, Dennis, we're going to let you go because we have to wrap this up. I'm going to let my guests get in the last word. And again, thank you for showing up and showing out every time you show up.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
You all have a nice evening.
You as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Boland, tell us one last
Yes,
time
ma'am.
how we can assist you. Tell us one last time the website and where to send our petitions once we get them signed.
Yep. Okay, so we need a minimum of 56,464 signatures on the petition. We're probably going to need 2 to 3 times that because the city will challenge the signatures of registered Chicago voters. So they are the ones who have to sign the petitions, but any U.S. citizen over the age of 18 who wants to come in and join the cause and go to Millennium Park, go to, the Hyde Park Art Festival, go to any events that are in the communities.
Well, they are doing the Hyde Park Festival this year, but go to the Puerto Rican Day Parade.
Yeah, go to all of our friends that, go to the Puerto Rican parade, the Gay Pride Parade. We need people out on the streets because I can't do it all on my own. I'm one person.
We don't want you to do it by yourself. We want to help you.
Right. And there are all kinds of people that are helping us, including you folks, and we appreciate it, but we need more. We also need donations. So, if you can go to the site and donate $2, $5, whatever you have. If President Trump can raise $54 million after getting 34 convictions, then I don't know why we can't raise. I'm not looking to raise that kind of money, but I'm looking for enough to keep the movement going here. That's number 2, right? So once you have the signatures on the petitions and you have it notarized and you have someone fill out where the circulator is, then you're going to send it to Recall This Fall, which is at 3712 North Broadway, number 456, Chicago, Illinois, 60613.
And when we send them to you, should they be notarized and signed by the person who collected the signatures?
That's right. Yeah, they need to be notarized and signed.
But the person who collected the petition signatures, they cannot notarize it themselves. They have to have someone else notarize it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they can. Here's the thing. They can take it to be notarized at any bank, currency exchange, or if they know a notary. They cannot sign the same petition that they're circulating. So, P. Ray, if you sign the petition, you can't sign it as the circulator at the bottom, but you could get your partner or your spouse or whatever to do that instead, right?
Right.
And then have them do that. But we want to keep it all fair and honest because we know that the current administration is going to challenge the signatures. Now, it would be great if we got 300 signatures or 400,000 signatures, 300,000 or 400,000, because it would keep Anna Valencia away from the Democratic National Convention because she'd be spending the next 3 weeks after August 5th verifying all those signatures, right?
Right.
But so the more we have, the better. Brandon Johnson got 322,000 votes in the runoff election. I'd like to see us get 325,000 signatures on the petitions to pass mayoral recall, because it will send a direct sign to him that he needs to change his ways. And the point I was trying to make before is, you see that some of the city council people are starting to stand up, right? And they're starting to go against him on some things. That's what we elected them for, number one. But number two, they're not happy with him either. And if nothing else is accomplished from all this, if the mayor who ran on transparency, accountability, good government, and direct democracy, and didn't do anything about it, got lost in the boxes between Cook County commissioners and the mayor's office, right? So he hasn't done anything to prove that he believes in these things. If it makes him more accountable, if it makes him more transparent, that's a win as well. But I don't think we're going to win on that front, so we're going to have to win at the polls. And then if it's the will of the people after it becomes a city ordinance, after we have that 50% plus one vote and it passes, it becomes a city ordinance. If it's the will of the people of Chicago to recall them, I will certainly support wherever I can to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Boland.
It would also give the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners a signal that there are not enough votes they can steal. If we get, let's say we get 300,000 or whatever, way more than 60,000, that there are not enough.
I would hope they wouldn't steal it. I would hope that they wouldn't do
This
that.
is Chicago.
The one thing that they can do.
But they're going to try.
And they're going to try, and they're going to try and hold it off the ballot just like they did with term limits. That's why it's important to have as many signatures as we can get, because the more we have, the more our cause looks strong.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you both for coming on today.
Appeal, can I get one last appeal? And this is about the press thing, that the black press that Dennis touched upon. Rather than depend on the black press, including the so-called black press that ain't for black people, including your former employer.
I never worked for them people. I paid them.
Okay, well, your former
business
platform,
partners, yeah.
Platform. We encourage them. We encourage not only our members with the Deep South Press Corps to cover this stuff, because some of them have stayed away from this because they say they don't want to get involved in politics. I'm like, you're already involved in politics. We encourage anyone who has some kind of platform, whether it be print, social media, electronic, or whatever, to cover this themselves and have Dan on, or any of us on, other people with him on, to discuss this thing, because I think the more people are informed, the more they understand it. Because right now, a lot of people are scared to sign some of the, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but certain people are scared to sign the petition because they're like, well, I can't do this to another black person or what have you. But we've had 40 years of I can't do this to another black person while they're doing it to us. That whole situation in Dalton, for example, didn't happen overnight. That is 62 years of corruption in the South suburbs, and it needs to stop. Otherwise, don't come complaining to us about how bad Brandon Johnson or Tiffany Hayward or these other people are that are in elected office that are running black communities into the ground, because you must like it.
Thank you. Thank you both.
My maxim is solutions instead of sulking.
That's right. Get to work.
And that's what all need to be on, whether we are with the media or otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Because we got to wrap up the show. We are at the end of the show. And the music is playing. So we are at the end of the show, which means that it's time to wrap up Black Excellence Hour. Because as I always say, y'all, we are at home. This is our house. We tell them how it's going to go. They don't tell us how it's going to go. They're not doing us any favors. Nobody's doing this for free. Everybody's doing this for a paycheck, some benefits, and a retirement plan. And if you get all of that for my vote, you got to give me something back for the vote. You got to make sure that the kids are safe. You got to make sure that the elderly are safe. You got to make sure that the taxpayers are safe. Everybody deserves safety and security in the city where we pay to live, because This is America, and we are American people, and we do not buy into the notion that people inherently hate us because of our race. These are just people who want to work for the liberal liars, the Democratic Party, the party of the Confederacy, and it is time for us to go. This is P. Ray of Black Excellence Hour, a show for people with high self-esteem. Thank you for watching today. Be sure to share both the lives, and mwah, ciao. See y'all in a little while, and pull up on us Thursday on Augusta or Friday at Trump Tower. See you in a little while. Peace.